goal is 5 years from now when I stand up here, you're this excited. Everybody understand that? That's my goal.
And I get it. 3 and 7 is not where we want to be, right? But there's one thing that I can say. I can lay my head down on my pillow every night and know that I've done everything that I could possibly do to make sure that we protected everybody in our program.
Guys, we have to learn how to...
After 3 seasons as head coach for the Tennessee Vols, Jeremy Pruitt is out. The search for a new head coach is coming right now. The search for a new athletic director is going on. Good evening. Glad you're here for WVLT News at 4. I'm Ted Hall.
I'm Brittany Towerwater. Thanks for joining us today. Certainly an eventful day here in Knoxville. One that we may or may not have been predicting. Rumors swirling over the last couple of weeks, an internal investigation into the program. And today, it all culminating, Coach Jeremy Pruitt is no longer in that position with the Vols. Along with 9 other coaches and staff members, a total of 10 fired today at UT. It came as a shock to some. Athletics director Philip Fulmer decided he would retire as well. In the wake of this, he decided to reevaluate his own role in UT and will let the next athletic director hire the next football coach. Up and down time for Pruitt, absolutely. That's an understatement. Pruitt failed to post a winning overall record here. NCAA investigators meeting with former head coach last week. UT making the decision today that there were far too many allegations, far too many people involved, and the allegations too serious. The coach had to go. One of the things that maybe we weren't expecting is Athletics Director Philip Fulmer announcing his retirement today. He says, though, this decision does not have to do with Coach Pruitt's termination. He did, however, say after hearing the news, calling it a sudden announcement, that he would have to reconsider his position as the athletic director. And both Plowman and Fulmer saying that will be the first hire as the athletics director before hiring the coach. It's probably important to note that the president and the chancellor both praised Fulmer. They're saying there are absolutely no reason to believe any of these allegations involve him or current players on the team. All right, so there's kind of what's going on. Let's head to campus now. We heard from UT's leaders a few minutes ago. Sports Director Rick Russo, tell us what was said. Tell us what's crucial about this as UT is starting over again.
Hey, guys, and good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, and one thing that you did mention that Fulmer said, this is a dark day, but a fresh start is needed, and that's indeed what we have once again. 3 years after the firing of Butch Jones, we have the firing of Jeremy Pruitt as head coach. Guys, what stood out to me is what Donde Plowman, the chancellor here at Tennessee, said, the scope of this thing and the number of NCAA violations. In fact, her quote was, what's astonishing is the number of violations and their efforts, talking about the staff members who were involved to conceal the wrongdoing. So that's certainly something that stood out to me. And Brent Hubbs of VolQuest.com, I would imagine that's one of the things you took from this meeting as well. We knew that they were looking into possible violations. I don't think we realized the scope of it.
Well, in talking to some people prior to the press conference, I didn't know how specific she was going to get, but I hear the word dozens in terms of violations that are out there. Level 2, level 1 violations. Things that stem and create the fire with cause, as we've seen with the staff members that took place today at Tennessee. The question now, as the NCAA is formally looking into this, as she confirmed today, what's going to be the repercussions of these violations? Tennessee's taking swift action in the middle or towards the end of this investigation to try to stem off, if you will, some of the NCAA infractions, and they'll certainly self-impose some things. But I think long-term, the question is going to be what is the effect of this investigation, these allegations, in terms of any punishment from the NCAA.
And Brent, before Tennessee can hire a 27th head coach, they've got to hire an athletics director, with Philip Fulmer announcing today that he is going to be retiring.
Yeah, and I just think Coach Fulmer's probably had enough. I mean, at 70 years of age, through COVID, through what is going on now, I just don't think he had the muster in him or the desire in it to go. And he mentioned, whoever the new coach here is going to need stability long term. I think that's a bit of a hint that how dark and how deep into the woods this thing is that Tennessee's got to climb themselves out of. This is not a 1-year fix or a 2-year fix. This is going to require some patience and some long-term work. And I think Coach Fulmer felt like whoever his the new coach here was going to be, needed to have someone that they knew would be their boss for an extended period of time to help them get this thing in the right direction and get this moving back the way it's supposed to be.
And helping Tennessee move this program forward. at least in the interim, will be acting head coach Kevin Steele, who Brent was just hired recently, comes over from Auburn, and he's got to now corral these young men and make sure that they're on the same page, or else we've got a real big mess on our hands.
Well, I think one of the big questions tonight is how many players are going to be there for the 6 o'clock meeting that takes place. Does everybody come? Or do some guys say, hey, I'm not coming, I'm looking elsewhere? How does that happen tonight, this team meeting tonight that Chancellor Plowman's going to be at, Philip Fulmer's going to be at, and obviously Kevin Steele's going to address this team? It is going to be an important meeting because you're trying to set a stage to calm everybody right now. But you got a lot of guys uncertain. You got a lot of parents uncertain. What's the direction of the program? What's the direction for me and my development, and what opportunities we're going to have to win? I know they talked about winning with integrity, but what's going to be the opportunity for me to win as a student athlete while I'm on campus at Tennessee? I think all those questions are running through the minds of student athletes and football players right now. This meeting tonight is important, and we'll see what comes out of that in the coming days.
Yeah, it's running through our minds as well. All right, Brent Hubbs of VolQuest.com. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Rick.
Important to know, too, that Tennessee has hired a firm out of Atlanta to begin its search for both an athletics director and for a new head coach. That search begins immediately, as this is once again a Tennessee football program in flux. Guys, back to you in the studio.
All right, do appreciate it, Rick. Here we go again for Vol fans, and there could even be NCAA trouble ahead. Move like this isn't new for Tennessee football fans, at least over the last decade. Ever since Philip Fulmer was forced out of the job, Tennessee has swung and missed on head coaches. Had a few coaches during leading the Vols since Coach Fulmer was fired back in 2008. The list goes back even further, though, those fired Tennessee football coaches back to the 70s. Head coach Bill Battle. Interesting to note, only one of those coaches left with a losing record, Derek Dooley, who was hired by then athletics director Mike Hamilton, despite the fact that he had a losing record at a much smaller college. Johnny Majors, Philip Fulmer, SEC champs, and of course, Fulmer leading the Vols to the elite position in the late 90s, early 2000s with the national championship and several other seasons where they contended for the title. Not on that. Wait a minute, where's Lane Kiffin? Remember, he wasn't fired. He left after one season to coach at Southern Cal, and now Jeremy Pruitt leaving with a losing record, fired today.
A couple others in there, too. Brady Hoke stepping as an interim
head coach.
Yep, so there are some others on that list, just not under the fired category. Other big news that came out of the program today is Philip Fulmer announcing that he is stepping down. He is retiring from the position as the athletics director. Didn't come without a heavy heart, though, announcing this move today. So we're going to go back down to UT's campus now. We're checking in with our Zach Rickens, who has more on Coach Fulmer's retirement. Zach, what did you learn today about this announcement?
Brittany, we learned today that Coach Philip Fulmer, now former athletic director Philip Fulmer, says he was short for this job, headed into it, and he was aware of that when he took this job back about 3 years ago now. And he said in the hiring of a new football coach, is going to want that coach to be here for about 10 years or so, and now being 70 years old himself, does not envision him being in that position here when he is 80 years old. So he feels it is important for him to step aside and kind of wipe the slate clean, if you will, with the two new hires coming as athletic director and head coach, and then of course all the support staff and athletic assistant coaches, coming in and being hired after that as well. And I want to bring in our media partner, Austin Price of VolQuest.com. And Austin, I just want to first off just get your general reaction to not only the Pruitt firing today and some of the assistants, but Coach Philip Fulmer no longer with the University of Tennessee.
Well, two different feels today. I mean, when you look at, Jeremy Pruitt, Brian Niedermeyer, Shelton Felton, all three fired with cause, meaning Tennessee, for right now, will not pay any buyout money. Now, I'm sure that maybe potentially some of these, Coach Pruitt will fight that in court and see if he can potentially win some of that money back. But for Coach Fulmer, was addressed by Chancellor Plowman as more of a decision that he made, that he wanted to step aside because, as he said, he is 70 and going through the last year of COVID and all the different protocols that you have to think about as an athletic director. And I think it's been more it's been more strenuous on him this past year than it was the first 2 years. So I think the common denominator factoring in the fact that he is 70 years old, as we talked about, They're going to make a new change as a head coach. It was maybe the right time to part ways and let two people come in together at the same time. First, hire the AD. She made that clear today. Hiring the AD will be the first thing they do, and then let that AD come in and work with potentially the Parker search firm for the head job as football coach.
Yeah, we learned that search firm has already been retained as of a couple days ago. And moving forward here, who are some names that could be looked at here in the future?
Well, Mark Ingram, was once at Tennessee. He's the AD at UAB. John Gilbert, who is the AD at East Carolina, was under Dave Hart. Those, the first two that come to mind. Charles Davis is one that would come to mind, but I don't think he's going to be interested in this job. After all, he's the main voice of Madden, the video game. I don't know if you want to give that up to come into what looks like a mess at this point.
A little bit cushier of a job, yeah.
It just looks like a mess right now. And who can they hire to clean this up, both as an AD and as a head football coach to stabilize it? Because right now, the ground we're standing on, from an athletic standpoint, is anything but stable.
Yeah, shaky to put it at best here. Austin Price, I thank you for your coverage as well. Guys, no doubt a lot of information to sift through. Should be very interesting as we move forward. Vol calls as well tonight, guys. Can't forget about that. Should be really interesting to hear from some Tennessee fans and alumni. As we send it back to the studio, guys.
All right, Zach, thank you very much. Again, as we told you, 10 people in the football coaching and staff fired today. Some of the notable ones, Brittany.
Well, got a couple assistant coaches. First, the outside linebacker, Shelton Felton coach, and then the inside linebackers coach, Brian Niedermeyer, who you were just hearing Austin talk about, who was named ESPN's 2019 National Recruiting Coach of the Year. So looking now at some possible violations, Donde Plowman saying that these are very serious allegations, level 1 and level 2 violations coming against the program. So you take a look back, though, and it's a long list of storied coaches that have been handed their termination letters.
Yeah, too many violations, too many people involved, and the allegations are too serious. So the decision today was made to fire head coach Jeremy Pruitt and 9 other coaches and staff members in UT's football. They are starting over again. Let's get a look at weather.